While renovating my backyard, my MIL stormed in screaming, "You think you can just build a fence without asking us first?" I said calmly, "It's my property." She snorted. "Nothing is yours. Everything you have is because of our son." My husband stood there frozen as she took out her phone and dialed 911, claiming I was being violent. The officer who showed up asked to speak to her alone, and what he found in her purse changed everything. I never thought putting up a simple fence would blow my life apart. It happened last month. I live outside Tulsa, Oklahoma, with my husband Greg. We've been married 6 years. Bought our first house 3 years ago. Small place, needed work, but I loved it. Especially the backyard. I always wanted to fix it up, add a fire pit, a garden, a privacy fence to block out the neighbor's ugly shed. Greg wasn't excited about it, but I figured that was just him. He never showed much interest in the house. I handled most of it. The budget, the planning, the contractors. He just nodded and stayed on his phone. I thought we were okay. I thought his silence meant, "I trust you." But no. Turns out, silence can mean a whole lot worse. It was a Saturday. I had a contractor over to go over the fence plans. 6-foot wood panels, basic stuff. Not even the most expensive option. I was excited, finally seeing progress. We were in the backyard when I heard yelling. Not just loud talking, screaming. The kind of screaming you hear in family court lobbies or on trashy talk shows. I turned around and saw her. Martha, my mother-in-law. She came stomping down the side of the house in sandals and a windbreaker, hair messy, face flushed like she'd run over from her place 2 streets away. I thought someone had died. "You think you can just build a fence without asking us first?" she yelled, walking straight at me. I blinked. "Excuse me, this isn't just your property. You don't just make decisions like that without consulting the family." I looked at Greg, who had come out behind me. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like a statue. I turned back to Martha and said, calm as I could, "This is my house. We bought it. We don't need your permission." That's when she laughed. This dry, bitter snort. "Nothing is yours," she said, voice cold. "Everything you have is because of our son." That hit me hard. It wasn't the first time she'd made comments like that, little digs, snide remarks about me not being wife material, about how I lucked out with Greg. But this was the first time she said it straight to my face. Still, I stayed calm. "You're wrong," I said. "We both work. We both contribute. I've paid more than my share." She ignored me, took out her phone, held it up and said, loud enough for the contractor to hear, "You're unstable. You're being violent. I'm calling the police." I laughed. Actually laughed because the only person yelling was her. But she was serious. She called 911. Said her daughter-in-law was threatening her with a garden rake. Said she felt unsafe. Said she feared for her life. All while standing 10 feet away from me, perfectly fine. And Greg? He did nothing. The police showed up 15 minutes later. One officer. Young guy, maybe late 20s. Calm, polite. He asked for details. Asked if we could stay where we were while he talked to Martha. She went off. Full performance. Fake tears, hand clutching her chest, swearing I came at her and that she only came over to talk. Then he asked to look in her purse. That's when things changed. He pulled out a prescription bottle. Greg's name was on it. But the bottle was full, and Greg's rail bottle was in our bathroom, half empty. She had duplicates. Turns out, Martha had been stealing Greg's anxiety meds for months. Maybe longer. She'd been going through his things, taking a few here and there. Then, when he caught on, she guilt-tripped him. Said her own doctor stopped giving her anything, that she was suffering, that she just needed a little help. Greg admitted later he gave her a few to tide her over. But she didn't stop. She made copies of the label. Started refilling fake bottles with other pills. She was mixing them with wine, whiskey, anything. Said it helped her sleep. The officer found 2 other bottles in her car, one with a scratched-off label. She was taken in for questioning. Not arrested yet, but detained. She screamed the whole way. Back at the house, I asked Greg point-blank, "Did you know?" He hesitated, then said, "I knew she was taking them. I didn't think it was that bad." I stared at him. "You let her steal your medication." "She's my mom," he said. What was I supposed to do? I didn't answer, because deep down I knew what I was supposed to do. Continue the story, add conflicts or story twist, keeping the details sharp and the tone dramatic. Use simple words. No ending yet, here's the continuation, adding more conflict and twists, keeping the tone sharp and emotional. After that day, everything changed. I didn't talk to Greg for 2 days. We lived in silence. I slept in the guest room. He tried a few times to explain, but the words were hollow. She needed help. I didn't know what to do. I didn't think it would go this far. Every excuse made me more furious. Then on the 3rd day, I got a call. It was from Martha's neighbor, an older woman named June who I'd met once at a cookout. She sounded nervous. "I probably shouldn't be calling," she said, "but I thought you should know. Greg's been at Martha's house every night since the police took her in." "What?" I said. "Why?" "I don't know. He parks 2 blocks down. Comes in through the back." I only noticed because my dog started barking. My stomach dropped. When Greg came home that night, I asked him straight out, "Have you been going over there?" He didn't even try to lie. "Yes," he said. "She needs someone." "She's a grown woman," I said. "She's not sick. She's manipulative. She lied to the police. She put me in danger. She's my mom." I looked at him, really looked, and it hit me. He wasn't just covering for her. He still believed her. Or maybe he didn't care enough not to. I called my lawyer the next day. Not to file for divorce. Not yet. But to get a copy of our property deed. That's when I got another shock. Greg's name wasn't on it. Only mine. When we bought the house, I'd used money from an inheritance my dad left me. Greg had bad credit at the time, so the bank suggested we put it under my name only. At the time, we agreed it was temporary. Said we'd refinance in a year. We never did. Greg forgot. Or maybe he never realized it was still only mine. Suddenly, her words hit different. "Nothing is yours." She thought it was Greg's house. That he let me live here. That I needed their permission to build a fence. But legally, it was mine. All of it. I didn't say anything to Greg right away. I played it cool. Let him think everything was going back to normal. He started staying home again. Being extra nice. Even offered to help with the fence. I could tell he felt guilty, but not for the right reasons. He was just trying to smooth things over before it got worse. He had no idea. 3 days later, Martha was officially charged with possession of a controlled substance. Her lawyer tried to spin it, said she'd accidentally picked up the wrong bottle. But the second bottle in her car, label ripped off, killed that defense. She was looking at probation, maybe rehab. Nothing major. But it was on her record now. No more pretending to be perfect. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, I got a notice in the mail. Greg had filed a petition to add his name to the property title. I was stunned. I confronted him that night. "You tried to put your name on my house?" He looked annoyed. "It's our house." "No. You didn't pay for it. You let your mother accuse me of violence. You let her steal from you and blamed me when I got upset." He shook his head. "You're being dramatic." That was it. That was the moment I knew I couldn't do this anymore. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "I want a divorce." Greg didn't take the divorce news well. At first, he laughed. Like it was a joke. "You're not serious," he said. "I've never been more serious," I told him. He sat down at the kitchen table and rubbed his face. "You're overreacting." I stood across from him, arms crossed. "No. I should have done this a year ago. You're just pissed about my mom." I didn't respond. Because yes, I was. But not just about that. About everything. About the years I spent trying to keep this marriage going while he checked out. That night, he didn't come home. I didn't ask where he went. But the next morning, something weird happened. I got a call from my fence contractor. He sounded uncomfortable. Hey, I hate to ask, but are we still good for Thursday? Yeah, why wouldn't we be? Well, someone called. Said the job was canceled. Sounded like a man. Said you changed your mind. My blood ran cold. I asked if he still had the number. He did. It was Greg's. I didn't say anything to Greg right away. I wanted to see how far he'd take it. The next day, I checked the backyard. A few tools were missing. Not a lot, but enough to notice. I checked the garage camera. Sure enough, around 3 a.m., Greg came out with a flashlight. Took a hammer, a few stakes, and the new drill I bought last week. Then, 2 days later, the county office called. Apparently, someone filed a complaint about illegal construction in my yard. Said I was violating local fence ordinances. Said I'd been warned already. It was all fake. I knew exactly who did it. So I stopped playing nice. I told my lawyer everything. Every call, every file, every sneaky trick Greg was trying to pull. He advised me to file an emergency motion, one that barred Greg from making any changes to the property or harassing me while we were in divorce proceedings. I filed it the next morning. When Greg got served, he lost it. Started yelling. Told me I was tearing the family apart, that I was dragging him through the mud. But then, he said something I'll never forget. If you want a war, you've got one. 3 nights later, the Real bomb dropped. I was home alone, watching TV, when I heard a loud knock on the door. 2 officers. One holding a clipboard. The other had a search warrant. For what? I asked. The officer didn't answer. Just handed me the paper. It said someone had reported evidence of unregistered prescription drugs in the house. Said the tip came from an anonymous source. Said they had reason to believe I was hiding narcotics. They searched the house. They didn't find anything because I don't do drugs. But as one officer was checking under the bathroom sink, he looked at me and asked, "Your husband live here?" "Not anymore," I said. He nodded. "Because this tip came from someone who knows your floor plan pretty well." I stared at him. "Are you saying Greg called this in?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Continue up to the ending. Ending must be very dramatic, vengeful endings who made mistakes, including OP if applicable. Use simple words. Here's the full dramatic ending, with revenge, consequences, and closure for everyone involved. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and cried harder than I had in years. Not because I was scared. I was past scared. I was done. This man, this husband I once trusted, had let his mother try to ruin me, then tried to do it himself. He wanted a war? He had no idea who he was dealing with. The next day, I went to the sheriff's office. I filed a report, told them everything, how Greg tried to sabotage the contractor, how he filed false claims, how he'd broken into the garage and stolen tools. I gave them footage from the security camera. Dates, times, receipts. Even the voicemail from the contractor where Greg pretended to be me. Then I filed for a restraining order. I also called Martha's probation officer and told her what Greg was doing, how he was helping her hide her behavior. They flagged it. Since Martha's probation required no contact with controlled substances and Greg was known to have prescriptions in the home, they reopened her case. Within 2 weeks, she was taken in for violating probation. And Greg? He got served with a criminal complaint for filing a false police report. Apparently, the anonymous drug tip matched his voice from a previous call to dispatch. They had it all. But here's the part one didn't expect. A week before our court hearing for the divorce, I got a letter. From Greg. It was handwritten. Full of apologies. Said he messed up. That he was manipulated. That he didn't know what Martha had done. Not really, not fully. that he just wanted to fix things. He said he loved me, and then, the part that made me sit down, I know it's too late, but I'm scared to be without you. I don't know who I am if I'm not with you. That broke me, because for all the anger, all the betrayal, I believed that part. Greg didn't know who he was. He'd let his mother define him. Then he let fear run the rest of his life. He never stood up for me because he didn't know how to stand up for himself. He wasn't a monster, just a coward, and I'd let that coward sit beside me for 6 years. That was my mistake. The divorce was finalized last month. I kept the house. The judge sided with me completely, especially after the footage and the false report. Greg didn't even show up to the last hearing. His lawyer did everything by phone. He moved back in with Martha. Or what's left of her house. Probation violations meant she lost access to her car, her meds, and her usual bag of tricks. From what I heard, they're barely speaking now. I changed the locks, put up the fence, planted sunflowers. The backyard finally looks the way I imagined it would. Quiet, peaceful, mine. And if anyone ever tries to tell me again that nothing is yours, I'll smile and say, not anymore. It's been 5 months since the divorce was finalized. I thought everything would feel lighter after the judge slammed that gavel, but real peace doesn't come like a movie ending. It's quieter. It creeps in, little by little. The first time I really felt it was on a Sunday morning. I was sitting in the backyard, coffee in hand, barefoot on the deck I built myself. The fence stood tall around me, solid and clean. No more prying eyes. No more drama. Just birds. Sunlight. My space. It was the first time in years I felt safe in my own home. But peace came with echoes. A few weeks after the divorce, I ran into June again, Martha's neighbor, the one who warned me about Greg sneaking around. She told me something that hit me harder than I expected. They're not just quiet over there, she said. It's like a grave. I think Martha's sick. Real sick. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know. But that night, I caught myself pacing the hallway, thinking about her. About Greg. About how the two of them turned on me and still ended up alone together. I didn't feel happy about it. Just hollow. Then came the letter from Greg's sister. I hadn't heard from her in years. She'd always kept her distance from the family drama. But she wrote me a short, sharp letter. I always knew you didn't deserve what they did. I'm sorry I stayed quiet. You did the right thing. That one hit different. I hadn't realized how much I'd wanted someone to say it. Not a court ruling. Not a lawyer. A person. Last month, I finished the last big backyard project, the garden beds. Built them with my own hands. I even learned how to use that drill Greg tried to steal. They're nothing fancy, but I planted tomatoes, peppers, and lavender. Things that grow slow. Things that need time and care. I guess that's the theme now. I don't look over my shoulder as much. I don't flinch when I get unknown calls. And I don't let anyone talk over me anymore, contractors, neighbors, friends. Especially not family. As for Greg, he reached out once. Texted me after the holidays. Just said, I hope you're okay. I didn't answer. Because I am. I'm better than okay. And the fence? It's not just a line in the yard anymore. It's a reminder of everything I've built. And everything I walked away from to finally build something real. A full year has passed. The house feels completely different now. Not because of new furniture or new paint, but because of what it doesn't have anymore. No tension. No silence heavy with things left unsaid. No waiting for someone to apologize who never will. I finally invited people over. A few close friends. Some coworkers. A neighbor or two. We sat in the backyard around the fire pit. The fence stood tall behind us, lit up by soft string lights. Everyone commented on how peaceful it felt. How private. How put together. I didn't tell them what it took to get here. They didn't need to know. But I did. Earlier that same day, I got a letter. Handwritten, no return address. I knew who it was from the moment I opened it. Greg. It was short. He said Martha passed away. Ovarian cancer. She didn't tell anyone until the very end. He said she refused treatment. That she didn't want to be a burden. He wrote that he didn't blame me for anything anymore. He said he saw now what he'd allowed, what he'd enabled, and that he was sorry for not protecting me, for taking me for granted, for turning into someone he didn't even recognize. He ended it with one line, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll remember that I did love you, even if I didn't show it when it mattered most." I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, not to hold on to it, just so I wouldn't forget. I walked through the garden later that evening. The lavender was thick and blooming. The tomato vines were finally strong. A small sign sat at the edge of the fence, one I'd bought at a flea market, planted in pain, grown in peace. That's how I live now. That's how I chose to live. Because revenge doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's offense. Sometimes it's walking away and building something they never believed you could.